Hello everybody, my name is Kenneth and welcome to or back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be checking out the first solo of SB19, Pablo's Huh? I'm gonna call it that until I until someone tells me in the comments or until we react to the song and the song tells me what the three question marks relate to. But when I first saw that title, that's my immediate thought was that kind of like confusion maybe or um a sense of maybe lost self or something like that. Um, I decided to go with Pablo first as the first solo because when we first started these reactions, when I first did my reaction to Gento, and I didn't know anything about these guys, my eye was first on Stell, um, and then it was on Josh, and then it was on Justin and Ken. And then it kind of settled on Pablo. And there's just something about all of the members that draws your eye to you, draws your eye to them. But with Pablo, I was seeing this kind of side of him through what we've seen so far, and also through his amazing ability as a songwriter, that made me intrigued to see how that plays out in a soloist setting, because songwriters like Pablo are amazing at creating music and creating songs. But sometimes that context of having a group versus being a soloist can change a lot about the musicality, maybe of a song, or even the themes that you're willing to challenge or deal with in songs. Um, even just like on a musical level. Um, if you say compare and contrast Stell with Ken, obviously Stell has access to higher notes than Ken might be able to. And so when Pablo is writing for SB19, he can take that range into account and say, maybe this wouldn't sound good for my voice. In his head he might have that kind of monologue, but maybe Ken can do this part and then I can pass this other part to Stell, and then I can give this to Josh, I can give this to Justin, that kind of thinking. Whereas when you are working on music or performing music by yourself, obviously you don't have the other members to utilize. I'm not going to use the word fallback on because that sounds negative, but utilize in order to show a certain vision musically. And so, yeah, I really want to see. I want to see how all of the members deal with their solo music and how it maybe differs, or how maybe their flavors influence SB19. I said flavors. I meant colors. You know what I mean, though. But I thought we could start with Pablo today. So without any further ado, because I've waffled on, let's get into it. Now, this was on Pablo's YouTube channel, so very ballad-esque. Very nice finger playing. I'm gonna go back. Sorry, pause warning for people who don't like pausing. So far, um, I'm getting Ilau themes and vibes from the lyrics. There's that kind of, once again, like I said in the beginning when I was just kind of guessing, there's that loss of self or identity, but there's also that kind of reaching out and asking for someone else's opinion, someone else's help. Um, I was told that this wasn't properly released as a song or something. I can't remember the exact words that they used. But yeah, this definitely seems like a much less polished recording in terms of it sounds much more intimate and much more almost like, and this is not an offensive thing, almost like a voice memo like kind of thing, rather than a professional like studio full recording um with all of the bells and whistles and stuff. And I think for a song like this so far, it really works. But I'm gonna go back a little bit. Um, that that was intense. I I was waiting for like a gap in the music, or because I hadn't even realized how close to the end we'd gotten there. But I was waiting for like a gap in the music or a lull, or somewhere where I could pause without disturbing the flow of the song. But there just wasn't that kind of moment to do that. I was gonna talk about just simply the start of the course here, talking about the moon. Um, Obviously, the way that this is filmed, obviously it's not in terms of like it's not in terms of like music video. It's not like a cinematic music video where it's got an outrageous budget or anything like that. But the way that this is shot in here, and the way that this is kind of the narrative is told to us, there's this parallel between Pablo and the moon in this song, and the kind of trope of wolves howling at the moon. Obviously, when you think of lycanthropy and werewolf law and things like that, um, there's kind of that two sides of the coin kind of thing, where one side is that you've got this arguably horrible transformation or or change in yourself that some would say you've become a beast, or you've succumbed to those beastly primal urges. But on the other side, there's that aspect that I think a lot of fantasy work does, where they tell the story of the moon giving strength. And in the reason I'd bring it up in kind of talking about this song is there's this kind of two sides of the coin story here in the lyrics. He asks whether or not the moon is his friend, providing that strength, or whether he's friends with this metaphorical moon that is just there to make him sad or make him unhappy or make him question himself. This entire last section of the song, the minute that these kind of visual bandings come in onto the video, it's very much the kind of visual representation of a breakdown. I think as well, I know I paused on the high note, we're going to go back to that in a minute, but I think even the way that this song is mixed at this point, I said earlier, I had that kind of almost like voice memo-esque kind of recording sound. Here, it almost makes sense because he's kind of... It's kind of like if you put Pablo or this character in a room and then you filled the room with the kind of noise isolation on the walls, and then you put like fog and mist and fake clouds and all of that kind of thick smoke around him, that kind of thing. And then you had him sing or perform or even just speak. That's what it makes me think of. This high note, that high note as well, is so raw. Like, it's got really nice vibrato in it, but it almost feels like that kind of moment where again, I'm going back to wolves and stuff, and it might completely be irrelevant, but I think it's necessary to talk about it just because of the fact that he refers to the moon in the song. But it's very much that kind of thing, that trope of when a werewolf is is on the edge of a cliff and like is howling at the moon, and it feels like that kind of, he's on that cliff edge mentally maybe, and he's reaching for this moon, this supposed potential friend slash even potential enemy at this point. He doesn't know which, but he's reaching out with this note, and it's with the mixing, it's almost like he's not even in terms of the mixing, it's like he's not even sure if the moon is going to hear him. I would be intrigued to see the recording of this, because when I listen to this, there's obviously there's distortion on his voice, and that's one thing. But the way he's singing into the mic, it's almost as if the mic is here and he's facing away, and he's so when you record, they always say like to get to treat the walls and for try and isolate what they call like wild frequencies and stuff. And it almost feels like in this recording there's been, and it helps with that kind of spontaneous breakdown that he is feeling in these lyrics. but it's almost like he's heard all of those rules about recording sound, and he's just said, I'm putting the mic here and I'm singing at the wall. And whatever comes back from the wall, whatever sound waves come back from the wall to the microphone, that's what we're capturing. That's how it feels to me. Is it's that kind of, it's so raw that he in the song he doesn't care about, you know, proper microphone etiquette, proper da da da. He's not going to sit there with his headphones on to sing this song. He's going to be wherever he needs to be, and just like the wolf howling at the moon, or just like that person that's about ready to scream at everyone and scream at the world, wherever that is happening, that is just going to happen. And you know, even this lyric here about being grateful that this moon is here, but they hate this so much. That's such a poignant line, because there's so many times when people have these crisis moments that the presence of a friend can be helpful, but in a lot of cases like this, sometimes the feelings that a person is having in that moment overshadows that friendship, and it's like, yeah, it's great you're here, but this is not fixing how I'm feeling. This is not fixing what I'm feeling. And almost to the point where you in that moment, you're kind of saying to this person that's, you know, in your life, that's trying to help you right there, almost saying like, you being here is doing nothing, kind of. And you know, he in the lyrics, he's grateful for this moon, for this friend slash not friend, that he's not sure which, but in this situation, he's drowning in his feelings, and it's that kind of thing that when he gets through this situation and gets through these feelings, he'll be able to go to his friend and say, thank you for being there, thank you moon, thank you, you know. But right now, he's so consumed by this feeling that it doesn't matter, that they're there. It matters in like the long term, but for him right now, he's so affected by these feelings that it doesn't matter. And then he just finishes off with that, just leave. It's so simple, and it's such a nice way to end it. And then you this song is amazing. It's heartbreaking, but it's amazing. Obviously, before I reacted to this, my intent was to see what he brought to his solo stuff that he didn't bring, or that he brain, please hold. So when I started this reaction, my original intention was to kind of see like how he approaches music as a soloist versus when he's writing for himself and the other members for SB19. Obviously, I mentioned already the kind of similarity between Ilau and this song. But this one, it feels even deeper, because I guess with Ilau, there's that almost shared hurting going on, whereas with this, it's only him, and it's obviously easier to talk about things that you're feeling, and so while I love why I love Ilau. Um, this song has a personal touch to it that I don't think SB19 could do the same in terms of that. If you compare just one to one those two songs, if the other members didn't write their own feelings of that, if that makes sense, I think. I'm just. Um, so I was just quickly googling, but Ilau is only credited to Pablo, and so I feel like if you compare the two songs, Ilau is a lot more of a surface level feeling, if that makes sense. Not to discount the amazing feelings that it has, but because it's shared between the members in that way, I feel like Pablo maybe shielded himself by not writing as deep. And when I say deep, and I'm meaning drawing from like the physical deepness of his emotions, not in terms of like the deepness of his lyrics or how well the lyrics are and so on and so forth. Ilau is an amazing song. This one felt like a stream of consciousness kind of song. And I think that him keeping it for himself is perfect for that. Because again, if you give it to a group set situation, if you put it in a group situation, you almost have to reduce the amount of personal that's in it, like personal and intimate that's in it, because like I said, there is this raw emotion that Pablo can easily give out. But if say Justin, I'm just gonna pick random members, Justin doesn't feel the same or hasn't experienced the same, or or even let's say if Ken has felt similar but not as much, it's without them putting their own, without them contributing those kind of lyrics to that kind of song, it would risk losing that personable and that personal raw feeling. But this was one of those songs that it's 3 minutes long, but that 3 minutes, I felt like we had ages left to go of the song, and then suddenly the song ends, and I'm kind of like, oh. But it's one of those songs that it takes you out of time, and I don't mean that in kind of like a flowery like haha kind of way. I genuinely didn't feel like time was passing for me in like the normal sense. I felt like this song had taken me into its own mythology, its own lore and such, that I wasn't even here in reality. And I think that's an amazing thing for a song to do. I didn't cry. That's one thing that I will say. And I think it's because with a song like Ilau, I think the reason that you cry at a song like that is because that's the kind of emotion that song elicits. Whereas this song, it's less, it's still upset and sadness, but instead of the response being crying in response to that. It is just it's just anger, upset, if that makes sense. You know, when you're so sad that you're angry, you know, when you're so sad that you can't cry. And it hit me in this in the same way that Ilau did. But yeah, I think the two songs have different perspectives on that kind of mood. But yeah, this was. I'm glad I chose this as my first reaction to solo music from the guys, because I think this was the perfect song, especially after so close after having listened to Ilau for the first time. I think that is fitting, personally. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave any of your thoughts down in the comments below. And I will see you guys in the next video. So thank you so much. And thank you, Pablo, for writing this and for posting this. And yeah, bye everyone. Goodbye.